Hey, this is John. If you're looking at this video, that means you're probably interested in buying my 2014 Dodge Promaster 2500. Let's take a quick little tour around this vehicle. I'm going to try to show you some of the ins and outs of this vehicle so that way you have a better understanding of what we have going on. So if we take a look here at the very front, underneath this license plate, this is where we have the connection for shore power. So if you need to connect to regular 120, then there you are. The van itself has lights all around it, all around the very top, and 700 watts of solar. As we move around, what you can see, it is a 2500. It is front wheel drive. A lot of people are concerned about that, but I will tell you that we've had no issue whatsoever. If you put a good tire, such as this tire right here, you're never gonna have anything that you need to worry about. It's very important to put good tires on here. And one of the things that we did was by putting a 4-inch lift kit, we were able to put bigger tires than stock onto this vehicle. Now, if you have really good tires, you don't really have to worry about very much, whether that be mud, sand, dirt, gravel roads, snow, ice, all of it can be covered if you have a really good set of tires. And so the other thing is we're also including chains, and we've only used the chain one time. We were at this place and we ended up getting 10 inches of snow, and it was a crazy hill, and we're like, let's just chain up just for safety. Worked out flawlessly. So that is the 4-inch lift on this vehicle. So we have a 4-inch lift both front and rear on this vehicle. There is a towing hitch at the back of the vehicle, as well as we have a bunch of stickers that just say this vehicle is monitored with audio and video, because we have an extra camera both in the front and in the rear that are recording 24/7. So one of the things I want to show you is the lights. And the way this is wired is that we basically have the horn, which is not wired because I never installed the horn. We just didn't really feel like we had the need, but we have an additional horn. This is the front light, this is the rear light, this is the left, this is the right. And we didn't feel like installing the rock lights that go underneath the wheel hub to light up each one of the wheels. That way if you ever have a flat or anything like that, or if you're rock crawling, which you shouldn't really be rock crawling in this vehicle, but this one right here is wired up, ready to go. All you need to do is run the rock lights, which we're including. So on the front of the vehicle, clearly that light bar is doing its thing. Around the side, we have 3 lights on this side. We have 2 lights on the rear, and then we have 3 more lights on this side. And so everything is controllable by side. It's really nice whenever you get to those camping spots and you just need to see behind you or in front of you, or if you're setting up for a campfire and you've already run out of light, now you have the ability to use the side lights, which has really come in handy. When we talk about this side over here, you can have the door open, start setting up your campsite, doing what you do, and those lights can just get you 100% in the right position, in the right zone. Okay, as we come over to the back, one of the main considerations that we had when building this van was that we wanted the bed to be removable, and the bed is removable with 4 bolts. Additionally, what we wanted to make sure was that our bicycles could fit. So right now we have the ability to fit 4 bicycles in here. So the handlebars actually come over like this, so you can put the frame of the bike right here with the handlebars out here, and they mount onto this rail right down here. So normally it is my bike on this side, my wife's bike on this side, and then we have plenty of space for paddle boards, all of our gear, whatever it is that we want to put in here. And we also have a lit garage, so that way whenever you're back in the garage, you're all good to go. So when it comes to garage things, right over here, this is kind of our main control. And so we have 4 12-volt outlets. We have one 20-volt right here, up to 3,000 watts. I've run circular saws, I've run angle grinders, I've run so much stuff off of this electrical system. It is fabulous. Then right here, this is where we fill up with water. And then right here is the hookup that we have to take a shower, and then also to fill up our bicycle tires, or to fill up the tires in the van for the van. So we have an extension cord that goes from here, or hose, that you can fill up the back tires. And then if you need to fill up the front tires, what you do is you come over here, pop this open, and when you do so, right down here is the air chuck that you can hook up, so that way you can fill up the front tires as well. So if you ever get a flat or anything like that, there's a large air pump in this van that will allow you to fill up your tires for your bicycle or for the vehicle, either or. and that goes right there. So if you need to take a shower, then right up here we have the connection to be able to take, you just hang the shower right there, and then we normally run a curtain from here to here, and then we have a teak board that we put down so that way you can take your shower, do your thing, and then hop right up into bed, which is really nice. We're going to be taking these covers off in a little bit to show you what the inside looks like, but right now, like I said, the bed can be removed, and then normally like skis or snowboards can be stored from there to there, or recovery tracks, whatever makes the most sense. And so then that is basically the view of the van from the rear. And on this side, you can see that we have the spray foam insulation on this side over here. This is where we have a lot of storage of a lot of equipment, and we're going to describe how to put that equipment into this space so that way it's ready for travel. So that is kind of like the main equipment storage locker, and everything that we have is accessible with magnets, which allows us to quickly get in there and get to the things that we need to get to. All right, so let's step back into the van. So we're going to come right over here, and we are just going to pull this open right here. And what you can see is that we have a connection right here, so we can put a table. So if we want to have an outside buffet, we can do that with a table. Right over here, we have storage for our shoes. And what I'm going to point out here is that we're dog owners, and so on this side we end up putting the dog water bowl, some of their toys, all that kind of stuff, and then it kind of prevents it from moving around. But there are also straps. There are also straps down in here, so you can strap in just about whatever it is that you want to strap into this fixture. Now over here, what you'll notice is that you can actually see the floor of the original flooring of this vehicle. And the reason you can see the floor the way that you can is because I needed it to be deep enough that it both matched here on height, so that way you aren't stubbing your toe, but also you could put ski boots, you can put snowboard boots, and the width of the boot laying down sideways is good to go. So this area right here, you can have your ski and snowboard boots and everything is good to go. What you would have seen on the still photos is that these chairs are able to swivel. Both this seat and that seat are swivel, so they can turn around. This one obviously, you can only turn to this direction here, but this one you can turn all the way around. But it is really nice to have that seat turned so that way you can have conversation while somebody is cooking. So this piece of wood goes right back, gets put onto this pin and onto this pin right there, and then you see that it has created kind of a flush transition between here and here, so that way nobody's stubbing their toe or anything in the middle of the night. And it was just a great way to get extra storage, because the main thing is storage, functionality, being able to actually do things. And that brings me into the point here. This right here is the heater, and the heater is phenomenal. What it does is it siphons gas from the gas tank, burns it in an inside chamber, and then exhausts the gas out. There's no gas inside the actual cabin. It's all contained. And so then that comes out right over here. There is the exhaust, and so this right here is the exhaust. And so whenever the door is sealed and whatever, there's nothing you need to worry about. We have a carbon monoxide detector just in case right up top, but there's never been a need that we'd had to worry about anything to do with carbon monoxide. And this heater is the biggest heater that that this company makes. It is phenomenal. We've never had an issue whatsoever with being over or underheated. I mean, I guess overheated maybe. If you turn it up too high, you can, in the coldest of weather, I think the coldest we've ever been in was negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit. And negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit is very, very cold. But we had it like 80 degrees because we had an older dog who really liked it warmer and was much more comfortable whenever it was warm. So we'd go skiing, leave the van 80 degrees all day long, and she would lay down right over here and just enjoy the heat. So really cool thing there. Next over here, if you take a look, if you are connected to shore power, then this right here is a direct connection to shore power. And so then that way you don't have to run through the power of the inverter, you don't have to run through the battery or anything. It is just 100% pure 120 volt shore power whenever you're plugged in with this. So very, very nice and convenient. Then as we come over, we have our kitchen area, we have our storage area, and we have some other storage areas over here. So let me give you a brief rundown of the inside of this. So of course, we have the front of the van, and then what you can see right now is that I have the privacy curtains put up. These privacy curtains are very easy to put back away. So these panels here are custom made to fit exactly as they do. 2 magnets to put up the ones on the sides. You just flip down the visors to put up the one in the front. Very, very quick, very easy. We either store them behind this seat or we store them inside of here, depending on how loaded up we are for travels. Then what we have, if we take a look, is at the very front of the vehicle, it's 100% stock. 100% stock as far as this is concerned, 100% stock on the bottom, and the only thing that is different is that these chairs have the ability to swivel. So the swivel chair is the only real addition to the front of the vehicle, and there we go. So the swivel chair is the only real addition to the front of the vehicle. So this chair here can swivel around, and then this chair here can also swivel around, and then you can make it as comfortable as you want to make it. So depending on who you have, put your feet up, read a book, do whatever it may be. These swivel chairs have been awesome. Highly, highly, highly recommended. All right, so that is that one. This one here. There we are. All right, so that is the front of the van. And then as we move up, this area up here is also stock. And so what's coming with the van is we have a bunch of dishes and silverware and other things to make your life a lot easier based from our mistakes of the things that we know that we really like to use. And so those things are going to stay here in the van. All right, so in this bag, what we have is plates. So here are some of the plates. And then in addition to the plates, we have bowls of the same style. So those are mixing bowls. Here are the bowls. And then in addition to that, we also have a large cast iron pan, and that is this one right here. And the purpose of this pan obviously is if you've ever done anything with eggs or bacon or whatever, it's just cast iron pans are the way to go. And it's also pretty easy with a cast iron pan because of the way they operate, that you don't use as much water cleaning them, which is really nice. So this gets thrown right back up here. And then we also have a blender. We also have a water boiler for like your morning tea. We used to just boil it right here on the stovetop, but we found that it's faster and more energy efficient to just use something like this right here. And this is what we've primarily used for our hot water, and it's so fast, so easy. We just set it right here, plug it into there, and we're off to the races and good to go. With the van, one of the things that is very important to us, at least, is that we need to have good airflow. So to have good airflow, I basically just press this button right here, and then I say that I want it to open. So this is air in. If I want, I can change it to air out. What I normally will do is I'll cover the front of it so that way the infrared transmitter doesn't transmit. I change this to air out, I close, then I come over here, and there we are. Now we have air out on this one here. And so what we have going on is that now I have air coming in and air going out. And so whenever everything is closed up, that creates a really good circulation. And then if you want, you can obviously replace it the other direction. You can increase the speed of the fans, you can do whatever. If you only have one fan in a van, where's that replacement air coming from? Who knows? But with this, as much air as that can push out, this air can suck in, and we have amazing, like we were in Moab, it was 90 something degrees. It was cooler in the van than it was in the shade underneath a tree. So basically the van is really good at that. Now when we come over here, we have a faucet, and so then this sink right over here has a faucet, and it has soap, and this right here is our cellular booster. And so this sink right here, you're able to use with any amount of water. We'll go through the setup of how we get the water up and running and going. This right here, this cutting board, I also place right here because whenever you're doing food prep, you can just take the waste, move it off there. We have a 50-gallon water supply, and then that 50-gallon water supply goes to a 10-gallon gray water. And really, if you're thinking about taking showers, whenever we take our dogs on long hikes, we get our dogs wet, and then we go on the long hikes. And so for us, having that has been phenomenal. And so then over here, we have a 2-burner cooktop. I'm going to show you how that works as well. And then when we come over here, we then get into the toilet area. And so here at the toilet area, basically, what you have is a composting toilet, and at this composting toilet, it separates your solids and your liquids. And my wife was like, oh, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. But it's really cool because it has a fan and it exhausts the gases. And so the really cool thing about that is that you can basically have no smell. And what you do is there's a crank arm right over here, and you just rotate this crank arm, and what that'll do is churn up the dirt. And we actually at one point forgot to empty the solids, And we came back, you know, 2 weeks later, we're thinking it's going to be terrible, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is just like so fresh and so nice. And actually, before we put the pin in over here, we were driving in Oregon, and it came off, and it's venting all of that solid air, you know, into the cabin. We're like, wow, it's like farmland. It's really earthy, and it was very, very impressive because this composting toilet is just phenomenal. I'll put that back in a sec. And then right over here, this is where we just have added storage. Now, this has the ability to put in shelves. I just didn't put any shelves in because I wasn't sure what other people needed. For us, we needed more of a vertical storage. And so then if you need to, there's space for like laptops and other things. So like this is purposely made larger because our laptops, we wanted them to be able to fit without tipping over or being bumped or anything. And so this kind of comes out this direction to make sure that even though we don't have the space on the bottom, we have the space on the top to fit the laptops, so that way we're good to go, because most of the time we're doing everything that we do on our laptops. Then this just closes right up, and then what the camera is underneath right now, which I'll move this over, is basically just another storage area. And we use this storage area primarily as like the #1 go-to storage area. And so this storage area is just great for just as like a catch-all. And right now that's exactly what it is, because we aren't planning on a trip, we aren't doing anything like that. So it's kind of just working exactly like a catch-all would. But you can put your luggage in here, you can put all kinds of supplies. We normally put the dog food in there. It just worked out really, really well on these long trips. So all of the lights are controllable with these light switches. And so this light switch right here controls these 4 lights. And then this light switch here controls these 3. And then we have this light switch right over here, which controls these 4 that are in the bed. So there's a lot of opportunity for this to be extremely bright, and we prefer things to be really bright. Now, if you don't want it to be bright, then you can dim everything. So you can dim the lights in the rear, you can dim these lights right here, and then also in the cooking area, you can dim those lights right there. Now, the nice thing about dimming those lights is that you don't have to worry about conserving power, because power-wise, this vehicle is phenomenal. But what I like is that sometimes like we'll be playing a board game and we just dim this like this. Now, interesting thing is that where you're seated, we have a light over each head, but sometimes if you're leaning into the game, that can really cause a shadow to come across the board. So I put this light right here, so that way we don't have any weird shadows whenever we're playing a board game. And it's just little details like that that I think really make the van perfect. And so underneath the bed, I'll just put this right back over here. So underneath the bed, it's a queen size mattress, and it is on this metal frame, and then you can see we have all these holes here. And the reason that there's all these holes is because sometimes if you have your body temperature, your body can produce heat, which then creates condensation, and then the issue that you run into is you could get like mold or other microbial growth underneath your mattress or your bed. So I just want to make sure there's good airflow. There's good airflow everywhere. Also, the walls, the floor, the ceilings, everything is covered in foam, so it's all spray foam insulated. So there's several inches of spray foam on the floor, ceiling, and walls. So this is a true 4-season, because the gray water tank is actually stored inside of this area, so there's nothing that can freeze. Your water tank is underneath the bed, nothing that can freeze. Your battery right here, so it's not like it's going to be damaged by the cold. So this, as far as this vehicle is concerned, it is a true 4-season, and there is one fuel source, and that was so important to me. And the reason why is because I want to fill up with gasoline, not diesel. I've had a diesel in Summit County where it has gotten cold enough where my diesel one time completely gelled up, and it didn't matter what you did. Once it's gelled up, you can't run the engine, and that's just dangerous. So for a van, I made sure it was gasoline, because that's not going to gel in cold weather. And so then you have a single fuel source, which is gasoline. That gasoline is going to run the engine, and that gasoline is going to run the heater. Now, if you don't have either of those things, well, then you still have electricity coming from the solar. There's 700 watts of solar. And so with that 700 watts of solar, what you have going on is that solar is going to charge the battery to run all of these lights and the cooktop and the pumps and the water heater, and all those things are going to be powered by the solar. But that battery that's filling up can also be switched to jumpstart the vehicle. So not only do we have the ability to fill up the tires if there's a flat, not only do we have the ability to jumpstart the battery if the battery dies, But all we have to worry about is gasoline, and that gasoline is the one and only thing that we have to worry about. However, there's a lot of ways that that you will be perfectly fine without having any kind of propane. You won't need to have any other, like some people do diesel, gasoline, and propane. It's like, oh my goodness. So to me, it's very important that you have one fuel source. You go, you fill up the gasoline. You don't have to fill up propane. You don't have to fill up anything. You just go, fill up gasoline, and you have enough of everything else to last you your entire trip. So I'm going to put this thing back right here. Let me put that there. Okay, so here's the kitchen. And whenever we are in the kitchen, basically, and I'm going to turn on some lights just so we have ample light. To do this, I'm just going to turn this to the side, and I can either lift it out all the way or not. And then I just move this just like this. And then what I like to do is just fold it in half and then slide it back to the garage. If, let's say, the garage is full, then you would just tilt it upright just like this. So let's just, for that sake of conversation, we'll just move that right there for the moment. You can put it up front, you can put it on the bed, you can put it just about anywhere. We then grab this, lift it up, and now we have our Dometic refrigerator freezer, or freezer refrigerator, or freezer freezer, or fridge or fridge. This has the ability to change this to a refrigerator or freezer, this to a refrigerator or freezer. It is Wi-Fi enabled. It's just fabulous. Really gives you a lot of flexibility for what it is, whatever kind of trip you want to go on, because then you can have really good produce and really good like ice cream or whatever it may be. Then underneath here, this is where we normally put our dry storage. Then each one of these drawers, we're like, well, we want to be able to, like for instance, like let's take this big drawer. I want to be able to take this drawer out, and I want to be able to grab whatever's all the way in the back. So what we did was with these drawers, they aren't fancy, they aren't beautiful, but they are functional. And basically they just slide right in just like that. Put that there, and now they can't slide forward whenever you're moving around, bouncing around, whatever it may be. And so then this is the cooking area. Again, cooktop. Then you have the sink. You have the cell phone booster, backsplash right over here, carbon monoxide detector. This is your fan control. Then we have different rags and also paper towels. And all of the stuff on these rails, we actually have set a hammock between these rails. You can have another person in a hammock if you really wanted to. The rails are super strong. And then underneath down here, this little area, basically what you have is you can have it set up that you want it to fill up this bladder, or you want to drain the bladder. And so basically whenever you're running the sink, it's either going to fill up the bladder or it's going to drain the bladder. And those are your two choices. Super easy. It is a 10-gallon bladder. So it's about as easy as it gets. And again, everything is inside of this area that is heated. So that way this is a true 4-season van. Everything is like perfect. You couldn't ask for, in my opinion, anything better with the way that this was insulated and with the quality of the heater. It is a true 4-season van, which is pretty cool. So now we're going to put this thing back, and I'm just going to tilt it upright just like this. Now everything is magnetized to go in. So if I just put this just like this, it's now magnetized. It's good. It's not going to go anywhere. However, whenever you're bouncing around on the road, you really do want that extra layer of security. So now this cannot be pulled backwards. The magnets are going to catch it just like that, but it can't actually fall off. So that pretty much takes care of this section here. The only thing would be that this little guy, what this is the whole control panel, but I prefer to use the app rather than this. And so this is just kind of there because, but with all the battery power that we have, all the battery power is run through the app and not through this. So, all right, so we are now back in the rear of the van. And so in here, I just want to point out a few things. Now, is it beautiful? No. Does it need to be? Nope. So here's what we have going on. Over here, we have a water expansion tank. That way the pump isn't always running whenever you first request to have water. So basically this water expansion tank allows it to kind of give you 2 glasses worth of water before the pump switches on. So that way in the middle of the night, if you just need a little bit of water and you don't wake up your partner, that's fantastic. It's really, really like the ideal way to go. So anyway, we have our water coming in. It goes into our 50-gallon tank right here. Then what we have is we have the hot water going out for our shower, cold water going out for our shower. So hot water, cold water. Then we have our water coming from our pump, and we're going to show you this right over here. So we basically have the water coming from our tank into our pump. then the pump pushes it over here. Now, one of the things you'll notice is there's a check valve, and so this comes into our air compressor. So what we actually have is the ability to run the air compressor and then to blow out all of the lines, so that way we're winterized. You don't have to do anything crazy. You just open up the valves, and then you just slowly open that up, allow this 2-gallon air tank with this air pump to then push air through everything, which pushes the water out. Do that a couple times and you've now winterized the van. So winterization, really, really easy to do. The water then comes through this filter, which the water is already filtered before it goes into the tank, but a second filter is never a bad idea. That comes into the expansion tank and then works its way over here. So over on this side, what we have is we have this hot water tank. And so hot water heater. So this hot water heater right here can give you a really, really nice hot shower or nice hot water whenever you're cooking. It does use the most power of anything else that we have inside the van, but it is really, really excellent at what it does. So really good hot water heater. It is marine grade. It's designed for applications on a boat, but you know, hey, this is basically a boat as far as I'm concerned. So when we take a look over here, what we have is that this fuse box, there are 3 fuse boxes here. And so what you'll see is that there's actually a metal conduit run underneath all of the floor. The reason why is because if you ever need to modify this, if you, let's say you want to just take this out, everything's modular. You can just remove it and put in whatever you want to put in. So if you want to take this stuff out, but still keep the spray foam insulation, the initial, you know, framing, all that, the electrical is ready to be run. However, you can pull that wire out, run whatever you want to run. And this right here is one of 3 of our fuse panels, and then that just allows you to change the fuse. You'll have a code of what all the different fuses are, where they go to. Then we have our 30 amp power inverter right here. So this is going to take solar, the engine, and then shore power, and it just kind of juggles and decides where it wants to have its power coming from. So if the engine's on, it'll take the power from the engine. If the solar is has ample amount, it's going to take it from the solar. If you're on shore power, it'll take it from the shore power, and it just juggles that to make sure you're always charging your batteries. Then whenever we come over here, this right here is our 3000 watt power inverter. And so then we have basically 3 areas or 3 circuits where we then have power going out. And like I said, I've run an angle grinder. I've run just about everything off of this. These 2 wires, just so you know, are for the light that goes up here. This right here, if I want to charge the battery, this right here, if I want to charge the battery, I just flip this, and then now I'm charging the car battery to jumpstart myself. If I want to turn off the entire array, then I just flip this one right here, and now I don't have any solar power coming in. I don't have any power going anywhere. It is now dead and safe to be worked on. So if you need to work on any electrical, turn this to off. If you need to jumpstart your car, turn that to on. Once the car is up and running, there's no need to have this running, so you can just turn that to off, and then you're good to go. And that is basically the electrical system in a nutshell. Now, behind this is the 400 amp hour battery, and there's a battery management device, and if anything were to fail, you just need to press the button. And the way that you'd press the button is right over here. You just press the blue button that's inside of here, and that will reset anything. There's no reason that you need to come in contact with anything else that is back here, but that battery is a 400 amp hour battery. I think it was like $5,500 just for the battery. I don't mess around with electricity. It's good or not, and that is about as good as it gets. And I'm very, very excited. 400 amp hour lithium ion battery, and I wanted it to be small so that way I had enough space for storage, because again, if you're doing long trips, the more storage you have, the better. So you can store stuff here. You can even store stuff over here. And over here, what we normally do is we have the air pump for the bicycles, and then just an extra reservoir container just in case we need it. So that's pretty much the back of the van in a nutshell. And then I'm going to show you how I put some of the things back into the van, so that way you can see how that's done. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how we're going to get this back together, because it's important to understand the system and how to get it back together. So here we have a couple relays for the things that require a little bit more power. Here we have the fuse, and then we have a few things I want to put in here. So the first thing I want to put in is I want to put in this expansion hose, and the reason that we have this again is to fill up the tires, and then also to fill up our bicycles. So this, I just fold it kind of like that, and then I just let it kind of settle down in here and get that all the way down to the bottom, and then we are good to go. So that's kind of where I store that. And then the next thing I store in there is this 5-gallon container. Now, I don't know ever why I would need a 5-gallon container. I've never needed a 5-gallon container, but it's just one of those things that if you need a container, you definitely need a container in that moment if you need it. So that just sets right there. Then the next piece that goes on is this, and you can see that we have this corner that's kind of cut out as such, and that just goes right there, and it's magnetized down, so that way it stays right where it's supposed to stay. So then I want to put this wall back on, so let me grab the wall. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide this wall back just like this. Put it all the way down to the end. What I need to do is attach the lights. And so the lights just have these quick connects. So I'm just going to take the one that has the red on it, put that with the black. The one that has the white on it, put that with that white one. And then we are good. Just kind of tuck that away a little bit. Okay, now right here, what we have is that this one here is labeled, and it is labeled L for light. So we have our light, and so I can put that in. So now you can see that I have my lights that turn on and off. Then the next one that I have is going to be this right here, which is the pump. This is my water pump. And so I basically put this in an order that makes sense to me. The lights, I'm going to use that all the time. The water pump, I'm going to use that all the time. Well, what's next? Next we have the heater. So then the heater, I'm probably going to use that next. And the last one is the air pump. And I'm probably going to use the air pump the least. And so then now that I have that, it just slides back in just like that. And then what I like to do is put an extra magnet there just because of vibration, just to make sure it doesn't fall over. And again, now I have my light and I'm good to go. Now, one thing that I did not show you is that whenever I turn on this light down here, it also turns on a light inside of here. And this light in here allows me to see my water level. So this is completely full right here. And then as the water comes down, then this is no water whatsoever. And so that is my indicator to tell me how much water I have inside of my tank. So then now, I'm going to show you guys what I put down over here. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention is that this right here is actually the cell phone booster. So the cell phone booster is right down there, and then I have the actual antenna elsewhere, which is near the sink. All right, these are the first set of tools that I put into into the vehicle. So the first thing is underneath the van, there's a high lift jack. What this does right here is that this allows me to jack up one side of the car using the wheel as the thing to lift. So if there's a reason I need to lift it to put something under to do a recovery, this allows me to do that without having to touch the body of the vehicle. It can all just be done right there at the wheel. If you're in a sandy area, then the high lift jack can go right here on top of this piece of big plastic, and the high lift jack goes there, which prevents the high lift jack from pushing down into the ground. Never had to use it, but we have it. So then we have from High Lift this entire kit. And in this kit, I have a whole bunch of recovery stuff. So I have all kinds of straps, I have gloves, I have the original hardware. We have all kinds of things in here that come with the High Lift to allow you to do basically a recovery in any situation. And it's all very, very beefy. This is extremely heavy. So that's the recovery side with the High Lift. Now the next thing is that if you are on a highway and you run into an issue of some sort, then these right here basically pop open, and these are your triangles. So then that way you can have triangles on the ground, so that way you are nice and safe whenever you're on the side of the road. So there are 3 of those that are inside this vehicle, and I always want to make sure, because there's no need to get out of the vehicle right away and start doing work. Grab the things that you need, do the work safely. That's the way that I look at it. And so then the last thing that we have right here for basic recovery is this, which once I get all 4 of these tabs, these are the chains. Now, like I said, my wife and I, we used these chains one time, and they were fabulous. So the way that these chains work is that they self-tighten, and really, really cool system. But basically they self-tighten, and so you can put these on without having to jack up the vehicle or move the vehicle. The vehicle can be completely stationary, and then it is ready for you to just put those chains on. You don't have to set down the chains, drive forward or backwards onto them. It's just wherever you stopped and ran out of traction, put those chains on, and then you're good to go. And like I said, we had about 10 inches of snow, and these chains just gave us the confidence to go up these crazy dirt roads that we probably should have only been on with, like, you know, a Subaru or something like that. But the van did great with the chains. It gave us the confidence that we needed. It was fabulous. So let's take a look at how these end up going in here. So when we come into the van, what we're going to do is the very first thing, we're gonna grab this guy right here, and I just set it just like that. Behind there, I'm going to take this high lift hooking thing, and then that's like the best way to pack that in. The next thing that I take are these chains. So then the chains go right here, because how frequently do you need the chains? And that's basically never. And then you have your safety triangles right here, and then that just slides in just like that. What we have next is the high lift kit, and then this kit is going to slide in next. And so just kind of wrap that like that, hold it here. It's a very, very heavy thing. And we will just get it to fit. There you go. And I like to put right where the straps are, put that right where the metal is, because nothing is going to happen at that point. So from here, we have a couple other pieces of recovery equipment, and we'll get those set up and ready to be put in here, along with a couple other just odds and ends. So these are the last little bits of important tools that need to go in here, and this is all coming with the van. But these are Max Tracks, and so these are the real deal. It's not the knockoff, it's not the fake whatever. This is the real deal. So if you are ever finding yourself stuck in a situation, this is exactly what you want. Now, what I've done in the past is actually this direction, is that I have stored these up top in here, depending on how much space I need down here or whatever it may be. But lately, just because we haven't been packing as densely, so I've been taking these and just sliding them in just like this. So with these right here, they don't move around anywhere. We don't have any issues, no problems. The next most important piece of gear that I have are my hot dog skewers. These are, I got 3 of them, very important. And where they go, and actually I'm just going to take this out for a second. Where they go is just behind where the Max Tracks went. And so I normally bring this up just like this until I get to the very end, slide them down to the bottom, and then they're ready for me. Then I have the snow removal ice chipper right here. It's same kind of thing. We're just going to slide it right down into here till it's nice and cozy. And then, since you can see where those things are, we're then going to take the Max Tracks and we're just going to set them in here. Now, space-wise, there's still plenty of space for me to store our camping chairs and a whole bunch of other things. And so I really, really can't say enough how much space there is in this van. I think that's like one of the best things. Now, as I said before, my wife and I, we normally have our bikes, and we normally have my bike and her bike, and we put them right here. So then we take off the front wheel, leave the back wheel on, and then that comes right up here to the handlebars. And so the way that this works is that we basically take this nut right here. All right, get this perfect. There we go. So then once we have that lined up, tighten this up. And now this bolt is snug and secure. Take this, put that there, take the cap, and then we just tighten that up just like that. And now, once that is secure, the bicycle goes right here. And then this has forward and backwards adjustability, depending on where handlebars line up. Sometimes that is convenient. But just so you know, depth-wise, this is set up to handle just about anything. So I'm actually going to grab a bicycle just to show you exactly how this would go down. All right, so this is my wife's bike right here. A little dusty because of the move. We haven't really had a chance to do very much. But the very first thing that we end up doing, we'll just throw this back end here so that way the camera can see it a little bit better. Very first thing I end up doing is I take off this front wheel. So front wheel comes off. Put this right here, just like that. The bicycle then gets set down just like this. And then I take this pin, and once I get it lined up, there we are. Then I can cinch that down. And now, if I were to tighten this down all the way, her bike would be 100% ready to go. So that is how you get a bike all set. And so again, the important thing to me was that the handlebars, if I were to move this over, there's enough space for the handlebar. And then if we take a look, I can have 1, 2, 3, 4 bikes ready to rock and roll. And then we also wanted to make sure that height-wise, we didn't have any issues up here with the height of the bicycles. And we also wanted to make sure that depth-wise, there weren't any issues with the wheels going past the garage area. And so that is basically how you would set up a bike. And then to take the bike out, Very, very simple. You just rotate this right here, grab there, put on your front tire. So let's say in this case, and grab this, get that rotor lined up, get everything lined up there, grab this here, all right, and now we are ready to ride a bike. And that's all there is to it, to be able to put the bikes into the back of the vehicle. So I'm gonna go put this bicycle back, and then I'm gonna show you the rest of it. Now there are different blue inserts that can go in here, so that way, depending on what type of bike you have, you can make this work with your setup. And man, I'll tell you what, it is quite awesome having this type of a setup. So now these just kind of set right down in here, just like that. And then there's just a few more things to put in here. All right, so the last things to put in here is this teak board. And what this board is used for is that we normally put this down right here on the floor, and that's what we use whenever we're taking a shower, because we have the curtain going across here. The curtain, shower head, everything you need is inside of this bag. So this bag goes in right here. And then that teak board just comes right up here and is set in just like that. And that stays there. We don't have any issues with it falling down. And then this is the bag that we use to fill up everything with water, which I'm going to show you how to do here in just a minute. So now let's learn how to fill things up with water. We're going to go through that entire process and kind of look at some of the ins and outs. So first thing we have going on is that we have this kit right here. And this kit, the purpose of it, is that we have a few things in here that are very handy. One is that we have this filter. Now there's already another filter in here, so there's really no need for this filter, but I just want to make sure that I never contaminate our main water supply, because that's more of a pain in the butt to resolve. So the next is that we have this really long hose. Now this 0G is designed for drinking water. That is allowed. So you want to make sure whatever hose that you use, that it is actually designed for drinking water. Now one of the things is that you want to make sure that you know everything that has been inside of here, because if you don't, that can be quite a problem. So I'm just going to set this right up here, and then we're going to go for a walk. So let's take ourselves over here for a walk. And we can see that down in here, this is where we're going to get our water supply. So this water right here has already been run all day today, but I want to make sure that I am not using a hose that is not designated for water usage. So whenever I unscrew all of this, we then want to run this water for 5 minutes. Whenever you run this water for 5 minutes, that makes sure there's no contamination. Now I've already run this for 5 minutes, so we're good to go. Let's turn this off. I'm going to put this into here. And now it is ready to go. So let's head back the other direction. Okay, so now that we are back, what we're going to do is we are going to connect some of the last pieces here. And so this right here is our water filter, and we are just going to thread that on right here. Okay, and what you can see is that there is an arrow that says water goes that way. So then we're going to pop the top off of that. We're going to grab this part right here, and we are going to thread this on. Okay, and then you might wonder, like, why is there a string on here? Well, the reason why is because I don't want to put any unnecessary strain or pressure on this system. So then this just kind of holds up this end right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the camera up a little taller. I'm going to take this right here, open this up, put this into place, and then I'm just going to go right ahead and tighten that down. And then once that is snug, what you can see is that this string has reduced any pressure that would happen onto here. And so now we're going to head back over, and we are going to turn our water back on, and we're going to start filling everything up. Cool. All right, make sure there's no kinks in the hoses. As long as there's no kinks in the hoses, then we should be golden. And then what you can see and hear is that the water is filling up. So one other view that we have is right in here in this main closet. So I'm going to open up the closet and take a look. And you can see in here that our water is coming in. And a few things is that up here I have this air valve. Now this air valve doesn't need to be opened at this point, but whenever I'm draining it, I would definitely open up this air valve. Now what this air valve does is that whenever I'm not draining, then you can see that air, because I'm pushing air out of this. As I fill this volume with water, I am pushing out the air. That means that this air needs to go down here, through this pipe, down, and then it drains out through the floor. However, if I am draining the tank, which I currently am, there we go. If I am draining the tank, then what happens is that the water is coming here, and so air can't go back in because the water is going to force the air out, and so air can't go back in. And so it's very important to just kind of give it a little vent, just so that way you don't put any unnecessary pressure. Now, the next thing that will happen as this is filling up is that you might remember that I said that you have your water indicator. So right here, you can see that we have our water indicator, and that's telling us exactly how much we have. This button right here is our water pump. So now our water pump is priming the system. Once the system is fully primed, then it is going to turn off the water pump, and then we are going to have our water that we can then take as we need it. There we go, coming towards the end. So this has air in it, but that's gonna get kind of cleared out. So we have our normal water right here doing what it does, and I can have hot water and I can have cold water. Now to have hot water, I just need to turn on the hot water tank, and then I should have hot water shortly thereafter. So now all the water that I'm using is basically going from the sink right here, and it is coming down into that 10-gallon bladder. So we don't need to fill up any more of the tank, so we're gonna come back over here, shut off the water, and when we shut off the water, we can then disconnect this end of the hose. Okay, water has been shut off. We're gonna disconnect this end of the hose. Now, you never just want to let a hose lay down, because if you do, then there is the possibility that it could get bacteria in it. So you always want to know where the end of the hose is, just to keep things safe and clean and sanitary. Now right here on a dry pavement, there's nowhere for us to get any bacteria to backflow into it. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to unhook there. Let me turn off the water. All right, so whenever we go to unhook, basically we are just going to go ahead and unthread this right here. And then there's a stop valve because there is water that is in here. So if I were to push on this, then you see that there is water that is in there. But there's a stop valve that prevents that from happening. So there's nothing that you have to do. It's just ready to rock and roll. The next thing that I do is that I then disconnect right here, just like this. And then I like to make sure that all the water is out of this thing. So I just hang it just like this right here, and I just hang this to dry. And now that's just gonna kind of drip dry for a little bit and get all the water out of there. While that's happening, I'm gonna take the two ends of my hose and I'm gonna find the very end. Okay, now that I found the very end, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of start folding it just like this. And the reason I'm folding it is because then I can get it into the bag a little bit tighter. And then also that's giving me the opportunity to kind of squeeze the water out of the hose. And so I'm just folding that in half, fold it in half, fold it in half. And once I think that I've gotten fair enough amount, I'm just going to put some of it right back here into the bag. I'm going to start folding it into the bag. And so here, I'll move you right over here, and that way you can see me folding it into the bag. And again, since I'm on clean pavement, I'm not too worried about bacteria backflowing. That is not one of my concerns right here. And so then one of the last things that I'll do is just to make sure there's not going to be any issues with water, like if there's any leftover, is that I'm going to connect the two ends just like this. And that way I don't have a leak that I don't need to have. So then that's just going to go just like that. Put it all back into the bag. And then we are good to go. And then this piece right here is ready to be put away. So I'm going to unscrew right here. Put that fitting there. And then those two plastic pieces, one is a plug that just plugs right back into there, and the other one is a cap. And most people don't save those from the manufacturer, but it just prevents any accidental drips and prevents anything from going in there that shouldn't be going in there. So then I just zip this up just like that, and it goes right in here. Okay, so now that I have that in there, I'm going to put this cover back on since we've seen everything we need to see on the inside there. And same as the other, I'm just going to kind of slide it just like this till we get to the back, let it go up. And again, one of the things that I need to connect is that I need to connect the power cords right here. So this has a little bit of red on it, so it's going to go with the black wire. And then this one has no red on it, so it's going to go with the white wire. And then I know I did it correctly because the LED has turned on. Tuck that in there. And then we are now good to go. And I'm ready to show you some more things about the kitchen. Right now there's no water pump. And if you hear it, I'll tell you when it turns on by just moving my hand. You'll know whenever the water pump is turned on. So there's that much water that you're able to get before you have to turn on the water pump, which is really, really excellent. That is just super good because it just makes sure that that you don't wake up your partner or anything like that, and that you don't short cycle that water pump. You want to make sure that if the water pump's running, it gets enough water in there to kind of cool itself down. So now that we have that taken care of, we've already talked about our cutting board. So here is the cutting board. So again, if you want to also run the water while you have the cutting board, I made it just the right size that you can totally do that. So the next thing that you'll see is that over here, we have our cooktop. Now this is not an induction cooktop, this is just a standard cooktop. And the reason we went with standard is because we wanted to make sure it'll work with any pot and pan, and we wanted to make sure if you want to toast your bread, you can. So you just touch right here, and then that light comes on, and then you can say on or off. And then we're just going to go ahead and turn this all the way up. And then same thing with this one. And we are going to go ahead and just turn this all the way up. And the camera should now be able to see that this one is red and hot. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. This one here is red and hot. I'm going to turn that off. And then you can see that it says that both are hot. And so I'm going to turn off the power, and then I'm going to lock it by holding my finger here for just a few seconds, and now you can see that it's locked. These indicators will turn off once this is no longer hot to the touch. So that's basically the kitchen right here in a nutshell. What I really like is that this fan, I put this right here so that way as you're cooking, it can exhaust out all of these fumes from cooking. So any kind of moisture, any kind of smoke or smell can all be taken out. Especially if you're cooking fish, you don't want the whole place to smell like fish, so you can just exhaust all that. So you can have fresh air coming in from over there and exhausting up and out. So let's talk about the kitchen table. So this is going to be lifted up. I'm going to move you over here just so you're in a better vantage point. And the kitchen table can be stored right down here. And I'm just going to set it here for 1 second, put this back, and then we'll put the kitchen table right here. So this piece slides right off. We then come down here, and we are going to attach this right here. And we are just going to make it nice and snug, and then put this down so that way nobody bumps it with their foot. And you can see that it's kind of in the way of this. Perfectly fine. It's not going to cause any issues. Your life will be just golden. You can also tilt it upwards, whatever is easiest for you. I think up's going to work a little bit better in this case. So Then what we do is we take this and we're going to put this thing right here, slide it down, and then tighten it up. So then this gives you your table that you can then, whenever you loosen both, bring the table over for prep work, so that way you can do all your prep work. You can even bring it over and in to right here. So again, if you are doing prep work, then you can have your cutting board here, all your veggies and other things like that right here. And so then that gives you the ability to work just about everything. And again, if you were the one working this area, this right here becomes a pretty good kitchen space. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is take down these privacy curtains and put them away. I have 2 magnets, and these magnets are just put inside of some cloth, and I just put them right on the door so that way they're ready for next time. And I can pull that cover out. Same on this other side. And then in the front. Now, what I like to do is bring this over to the back. And I set it out just like this and set this out right here. And let me get you in the right position to see what happens. So what I do is I align this part of the Reflectix, and so then that way I'm not like bending it in a weird way. And then I just start rolling it up. Okay, now the covers are rolled up, and again, you have the option to put the Reflectix out if it's a sunny day, or to put the black out if you want to be a little bit more stealth. So then I take this, I put it down right in here, close it up, and as you can see, we're ready to drive away. So the last thing that I want to show you how to do is that we've already used the sink, and because we've used the sink, we now have water that is inside of our gray water reservoir. So I want to be able to pull that out of the gray water reservoir. And the way I do that, and I'll bring you down here for that, is that I'm just going to open this up. And all I need to do is change this. Right now it is going into the reservoir, and you can see we have water inside. And I'm just going to turn it right here, just like this. Now, because that's happened, you can see that we have some water that is starting to go out. So let's see where that water ends up. All right. Okay, so right here is where the water ends up. This is how the water comes out. Now you can put an adapter onto the end of this hose, and then what that'll allow you to do is to put it into a different container, and basically it just keeps running out just like this until we have nothing left in the gray water tank, and that's how that works. So to drain the water, let's take out our sun visors here. So the main water tank is right in here. And if I want to drain this main water tank, again, like I said, since I'm taking water out, so since this water is going out, I want to replace it with air. But our overflow and our drain, which is also the air intake, is all the same pipe because it's the same pipe. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to unthread this little guy right here and basically just allow the air to go in. And I'm going to rotate this. And now you can see that we are draining the water. Let's take a look where the water drains. So if we take a look, this is where all the water is draining from our water tank. And over here is where the water is draining from our gray water. Now again, we didn't have anything in here except for fresh water, so it's perfectly fine to just have it go out onto the ground. Otherwise, you put it into a container, or you go to a drop-off spot where you're able to drop off all the water. So after you've gotten to where you want to be, the next thing you might have to do is take a nap. So let's figure out how to get the bed all ready to rock and roll and learn a couple things about the bed in general. So first off, I'm just going to move this out of the way so that way I can stand up. And I'm going to take some of the things off of the bed. And one of the things that you'll notice about the bed, and let me just bring you right up here, is that the bed has kind of a indent and that's on both sides. So I am 5'10", and so what this has right here is the ability for you to have a little bit of extra stretching room. So we remove some of the insulation here to allow you to have that extra space. One of the other things is that on this bed, you'll notice that we have 2 comforters. So it's a queen size bed, but we put 2 twin size comforters on here. And we learned this whenever we were in Iceland one time. And this is how most all the beds are whenever you're in Iceland. And that's because one person can have their own cover, and they can have it doubled up, they can have it single, they can kick it completely off, and they don't interrupt the other person. And so depending on how one person sleeps, that can make it more or less comfortable, of course. And so then on this end, we have our pillows, and we're ready to go. So let me just slip off my shoes. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna step right down here, put my foot right here, step up into the bed. And as far as the bed is concerned, again, I'm 5'10". There's plenty of space for me right here. Like, yes, I can make my head hit the ceiling, but it's perfect. We have plenty of space to be able to hang whatever you need to hang. So like if you want to do fresh laundry, dirty laundry, whatever, you can pack this out. And here on the edge, you can see that each one of these little pins work just like this. And so you are able to take these and you can set them anywhere that you want to set them. Very much customizable. Then you can hang just about anything. So from here, I normally set my pillow just like this. I have my feet right down here. And again, I'm 5'10", and you can see that I'm gonna rotate this here. I actually have plenty of headroom right here. And again, I'm 5'10", and this works just fine for me. So that is the size of the bed. One of the other things about the bed is that whenever you close the door, I like this area right here because I'm able to put my cell phone right up here. And so if I grab my cell phone or a book or anything, I can put it right here. So when I'm in bed, I can grab it right here whenever my alarm goes off. I can be ready to go. I can turn on and off the fan if it's, going too fast, blowing down on me. Normally we like to have the air coming up and out. And the reason for that is because if the air is blowing straight down, then it gets to be a little bit much and it'll dry out your throat depending on where you are. So that's pretty much the bed area. Again, full queen size. Oh, and we have the light right here, so you can do all the dimming of the light, and has just about everything you need. So let's go ahead and jump into the next thing, which is going to be the heater. So now let's take a look at the heater. So right over here is where the heater is. And this, I put a little line right where we'd like to keep our temperature, but you can put it wherever you'd like. So if I just turn up the temperature of this heater, then the heater should be turning on. And we're gonna bring the camera over here first. We're gonna set that down right here. And then we're gonna bring over the thermal camera. Okay, from the time that I turned on the heater to right now, it's been about 3 minutes. It's gone through its initial self-check, done the whole ignition phase, and we're now pumping out over 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's still not 100% warmed up just yet. So like I said, this is the largest heater that Webasto has. It is the Evo 55, I believe, is what this is. And man, no matter what the temperature is outside, you're going to be perfectly fine. The only considerations with this is that you should not be running the heater while you're driving the vehicle. Make sure the vehicle is stopped, because if you're driving the vehicle, the air intake can be not giving enough air. And then also we can have issues where the exhaust can get like ice and stuff, especially if you're driving during the winter. So you just want to make sure that everything is done the way that it should be. And as you can see right now, we are pushing upwards, heading into the 300 zone. And this is going to keep you and your family extremely toasty. So what we want to do now that is up and running, is that we are just going to come over here and we are going to turn it off. And now that it's basically reached full temperature, it is now going to be doing its shutdown sequence. And its shutdown sequence is just going to run the fan to make sure all the elements cool down properly. And then it is going to be good to go. And again, if you want to see the exhaust, here is the exhaust right down here. So there we are with the exhaust. And there's the heater. Okay, and the last system that needs to be discussed about how to take care of would be the toilet. Now there's a lot of information on how to take care of a composting toilet, but for us, let's just take a look right down here. So when I am looking at the toilet, a few things that you want to note is that you do want to make sure that you do not overly fill your liquids, because then that's a problem. But I'm just going to pop this here, and now this tilts back. So you can see that we have our solids in here, and you can see that we have our liquids in here. Now there's no liquids in here, so nothing we need to worry about. And then the solids, basically you just want to make sure that you do replace that, but you don't have to replace it every time that you go. It actually is better for the ecosystem in there to keep some stuff in there, so that way it doesn't have to start from scratch with all the microbes that break down everything into a healthy dirt. So then I can just lock this right back up since I'm all done there, and the toilet is basically done. Now one of the things that we do is that we use vinegar, and so vinegar is the way in which we sanitize things. So it is perfectly good for everything that's in there. So we sanitize, then we wipe down. Now granted, we also use a Clorox wipe, and that Clorox wipe, we wipe down all the hard surfaces and whatnot, but basically that just keeps the toilet fresh and healthy and working the way it's supposed to, because again, the toilet is like a living organism, and it basically is one of those things that you need it to be healthy, and you need to make sure you do it correctly. But I mean, in general terms, it's as simple as it gets. You throw in some peat moss, you use it for a while, then you throw out the peat moss and you're good to go. And it is so much better than a canister because it's not disgusting. So then to put this back together, what you do is you take this, you just slide this into position. I'm going to stand up for this, and I just like to open that up so I can get in there. Slide it down just like that. Take the seat, put the seat over top, and now that is everything. That is pretty much a complete overview of every aspect of this van. I'm not really sure what else I could talk about. I mean, I could geek out for quite a while about why certain things were done certain ways, but the main thing is that this is just an overview to make sure that you are comfortable, if you are going to purchase this van, that you feel comfortable with the systems, the way that it was constructed, the way that it is. I'm going to be the first to admit I am not an interior decorator at all. This is perfectly good for me and my wife, but I know that some people have this idea of they want their van to look a certain way. And that's great if your van looks a certain way, but the thing is, you need your van to act a certain way, to be a certain way. And if your van can't fit your stuff, if your van can't keep you warm, if the van can't operate in cold temperatures, what's the point? So to me, right now, this is a blank slate, and anybody can make it look the way that anybody wants it to. So hopefully this van can take you on some really amazing adventures. I know my wife and I have had an amazing time in this van, and so I just really hope that this van is going to be able to be something that gives you amazing times. And so fingers crossed you like the van, and I really know it's going to give you a lot of really great adventures in the future.